Hey, I'm James from Smoking Dad Barbecue, and today we're making the ultimate cedar plank salmon. So as you can tell, you're joining me just at the moment we are almost ready to get our salmon off. It's probing around 130 degrees Fahrenheit, where I'm looking for 135, 140 degrees Fahrenheit, and we are ready to serve it. But before we do that, let me take you back a little bit earlier in the day, show you how I rigged up what I think is the ultimate cedar plank salmon. There's a lot of different ways you could do this inside of your Kamado Joe. You could do a cedar plank like I've made here, or just get the prefabbed ones and throw them in your grill. On the soapstone is an absolute amazing way to do this. But there are many other live fire cooking traditions and cultures around the world, whether you look at an asada cross style grilling where you've got sort of the angle right over the coals, which is what I'm trying to replicate a little bit here in the Joe, or specifically when you go to salmon, if you look at Nordic cultures, there's plenty of examples of, just amazing live fire smoked salmon recipes. And so I wanted to bring sort of a global perspective and see if we can't incorporate some of these live fire cooking techniques and try something a little bit off the beaten path with our Kamado Joe. Let's get into it. Go back earlier today when I show you how to jerry rig this system. So as you can tell, I've been to the depot and I have a large piece of cedar plank to work with. So depending on the grill that you're using here, we'll be able to make a custom size that's exactly what we need. So I have the Big Joe Series 1 and the Big Joe Series 3. I'm going to choose to do this on the Series 3 for the reason you see behind me is I don't know exactly what angle I'm going to like best, and the airlift hinge will give us the ability to have a couple different angles, whereas on the Series 1 and grill, if I were to let go here, this will just fall. So that's the reason I'm going for the Series 3. Let's go over nice and close, measure it up so we can make our asada cross style cedar plank salmon. Okay, so the idea that I think will work best is to hook our salmon plank on the back, either to the divide and conquer rack or the charcoal basket. We'll play with that a little bit, and then bring it up so that I can hook on to the handle. So that'll give us sort of this angle here, like so, where we'll be able to have our salmon on the front, build a little bit of a fire up here, and that'll get the heat rising up directly in order to cook that nice and even. So from a measurement perspective, we can always go a little bit smaller, but if I were just to start to look at the difference here, if we had it all the way down, what length that would be, that would have me at about, I wouldn't want to go any more than, 31 inches, or if I go straight up here, let's see what that would look like. Do that maybe so you can see. I can go all the way to 41 inches, but that again would have our plank essentially is what you see right here, where it would be vertical. So I actually think I like the look of the vertical a little bit better than I do the idea of having it hung like this, which will also make it a little bit easier not to have our salmon fall into the fire. So let's start with a little bit more length since we can customize that. So I'm gonna go, let's call that 37, let's do 36 inches. Let's go measure it out, cut it up. I know we are recreating an ancient grilling technique with hand tools. That's going way too slow, so let's get this done in a few seconds. So I'm left with about 5 feet of cedar that I just put in the garage. Let's go test fit our cedar plank and see where we want to line up our holes and how we're going to fasten this to our Kamado Joe. Okay, so that looks good, and we've got a little bit of option here whether we wanted to put it on an angle or bring it up. And so what I'm thinking, I'm going to look at, I've got a few things. I have some meat hooks that I've used before for hanging food on the channel, as well as I've got these just sort of larger lock washer bolts that I could potentially use. So I don't think they're going to quite, and they might reach. Yeah, I don't think those will quite reach. So I'm either going to use my hooks that I have, the meat hooks, and sort of just try and run one through here and around, or I've got some metal twine that we can use and just make a little holes in our wood and go around. So let's just put some holes here for now. Okay, so I've got the smaller meat hooks that I'm going to use to hook on to the bottom. So let me just take this over to the divide and conquer basket. And so when we give that a little tension, depending on where we put our dome, that'll allow us to sort of move up and down with that still holding the bottom of the board so it doesn't fall into our fire. So there we go. We've got top and bottom in place. And we've got a little bit of adjustability in terms of the height and the angle, depending on where we want this to sit. If we want it to come all the way, forward, we can do that and get away with that with the hook. So I think we're ready. Let me get this. I'm going to do a couple holes down the side and use the a little bit of zinc plated metal rope that I have, just so that I can put some ties around our salmon. I'll rejoin you in a little bit when we're ready to prep our salmon, and I'm going to let this soak in water for about 30 minutes before we want to get our salmon onto it. So I am working with some beautiful Arctic salmon today. Let me bring you nice and close, or we're going to butcher it up. So the game plan here is just going to remove the head and then help split this open. Now it's already got the belly open, so I don't have a lot of work, but the plan is to then butterfly that open and adhere that to our board. Let's come nice and close while we start to butcher up our salmon and get ready to add some seasoning. So there is nothing more frustrating in my world than finishing butchering up our salmon, walking you through the whole process, only to realize that my camera sitting in the sun overheated and turned off long ago. So let me catch you up on what you missed. So we continued butchering the salmon, all the way down the middle. So I had two nice fillets. We're doing one today for our video, and as I explained, when it's cut off, the other one is going to be for our family tomorrow. So I've got that ready. I also then would have shown you the process of taking the twine and just winding that through like a shoelace in our board. So we've just got a little bit of extra support, as well as putting in some nails. So that is all ready to go. So the salmon is sitting inside just to keep it free from any of the bees that are taking excessive interest in it and the rub. And now I can take you over to our Joe. We're going to flip our firebox or our charcoal basket around so the fire is at the front instead of at the back. Build our fire and we'll be ready to bring the salmon out and get it on. Let's fire up the Joe. So setup's going to be easy. I'm just going to use the handles on the divide and conquer rack since they're looped into the charcoal basket and flip that around front. And I don't know if you can see down in there or not, but I've just piled the charcoal towards the front. So I'm not going to add any more charcoal since we're actually going to try and sustain this with just wood chunks, and that'll be more than enough. So let's grab our Grill Blaster grill gun, fire this up. Fire in the hole. Okay, that looks good. Bottom vent is all the way open. Just close the dome to get a little bit of heat and make sure the top vent is all the way open. Okay, our grill is come up to temperature where it's passing the hand test, so I think we are good to go. So again, I have the two different size hooks, so I think these are the 4-inch and these are the 5-inch. So let's get the support on the top hooks first. Here we go, beautiful. So let's start by hanging our fish here vertically. And before that fire gets too hot, I will put the hooks in here on the bottom and loop that into the charcoal basket. Okay, already getting a little bit too warm to do that barehanded, so let's get the other hook in here. Perfect. Okay, so I mentioned I want to cook mostly with wood. As that charcoal bed starts to die down, I want to switch to wood. We're not quite there yet since we just got this on. So if you haven't seen before, I've tried actually running my Kamado Joe like an offset with wood. I had great success by placing sort of some pieces towards the back so that they warm up and are ready to combust when we're ready. So I'm going to place one or two of these at the back just so that they are getting nice and ready, and then when they are nice and hot, we'll pull them in. I'll start with just a small one right now into the coals and let that smoke and combust and cook our salmon the authentic way. So I've been keeping the fire going just by rolling one or two of those wood chunks in, which is what I found I needed to get this upper end doneness that I want. So we've got great doneness on the bottom, pretty even in the middle, and it was this upper portion that I was a little worried about. So let's check our internal temperatures here. 124, 125. So we are almost there, and we are right on the money down at our lower portion. So I'm going to give this about another 5 minutes, and I'll rejoin you for our taste test. Okay, our salmon looks and smells amazing. Now there's lots of other things that we could do to really enhance the flavor if you wanted with this. So you get some rosemary sprigs and use that to baste your salmon, or you could use some of those rosemary sprigs, as I've done before, instead of smoking wood, and that will infuse an amazing smoke. We just kept it simple today, but I do have a little bit of fleur de sel finishing salt. So let's just add a little bit of finishing salt here, just a dash. Cheers. Go right in the middle here. See what we've got. Oh, look at that. Looks tender, juicy. Let's go for a bite. Wow, that is really good. Is it better than normal cedar plank salmon, or is it better than soapstone? I still don't think so. I think the soapstone for me is hands down my favorite all around sear surface. It's great for things like salmon. It's antibacterial, it's non-porous, you can clean it, you don't have to re-season it, it doesn't rust, and it does an amazing job on a sear, especially for crispy skin. And that's something you just don't get in a cedar plank, whether we do it this style or sort of the normal soak your cedar plank and lay it horizontally inside of your grill. What do we gain? So the aromas of that clean smoke, you can't really sort of beat the clean smoke that we're getting burning an open fire inside of the Kamado Joe, and the cedar plank itself starting to smolder a little bit down here. I can definitely smell that even just standing here right now, and it is amazing. So lots of good things to take away from this in terms of just the clean smoke, an amazing presentation. You could do so many things with this board if you had a large group, and that's where I think I might look to recreate this, is for the presentation and wow factor. Maybe not going to taste incrementally different or that much better than what we've done in the past, but the presentation factor I think is amazing. So for a group party, there's definitely a lot of fun that you could have with this. That's about it for today though. I'm James from Smokin' Dad Barbecue signing off. Remember, don't be afraid to fire it up.